My name is Krishna Bobby Parsar. I am a third year student in computer graphics and multimedia, major in Bangkok University. I have done an application on 2D and 3D animation and how it is done. So, I wanted to compare the 2D and 3D, and 2D is you draw out everything and then you put it frame by frame in a computer to make a movie. And 3D animation is where you use the computer to create the characters and then you create the animation on computer. None of it is actually drawn on paper then moved on computer. So I wanted to compare how the techniques is both different for both of them, and I wanted to compare how hard it is. And so so I drew this is a Maya logo layout. Maya is an application used to create 3D animation, and here I have drawn paper and rulers and pens because it's all about doing it by your hand. This is animation, how it's done. So this is my menu page. I have 3 different subjects. I have history, which is the history of 2D, 3D, and how it evolved through time. Then I have the techniques. There are 2 different techniques that I focused on, which is stop animation and CGI. And I talked about movies between the time period of 1985 and 2005. So in history, I have shown the history of animation. What is animation, and the history of 2D animation. Then I talked about the different types of animation that have been around since the 16th century. People would use lamps and move images in a circular motion around it so that the images would be projected on a wall. It was used as a way to convince people that witches were alive and they were actually real. And then it evolved from lamps into they used light, and then they used film, and then they would just make it circular in 2 films, and they would just move in anti-clockwise. So on the computer it would just look like it was moving together. And there are many different types. And then I talked about 3D animation and how Pixar was the company that promoted 3D animation to the whole world by making Toy Story, which is the first featured film. But it is not the first film ever made that was 3D. And I talk about how there are different types of 3D. Either you can make it on the computer or you can make the clay modeling, which is a mixture of 2D, 3D, because you have to take frame by frame images, so it's considered 2D, but because it's made of 3D models, it's 3D, so it's both the mixture. And so it would be considered 3D also. And I talked about how there are many popular films that are made by clay animation, like the walrus, the sheep. I forgot his name.
What? Roger Rabbit?
No, Roger Rabbit is not 3D clay. It is actually made on CGI.
Yeah.
But there was this movie. It was about a sheep, but I forgot the name, and I think I put it here somewhere. It's here somewhere. So.
All right, that's okay. So you just tell us what the outcome of your research.
I saw how many people don't think that 2D animation was created before it was in theaters, but it was there for a very long time. But because not many people could see it, you had to be there with the person who had the technology to see it. You can't just tell someone else and they'll be like, okay, it's true. It has to be seeing is believing. And because in that time there was no good transportation, people could not go long ways to see all this animation. Like the first 2D animation movie that played in theater, only 500,000 people actually watched it in history. You have to actually find a movie to watch it.
Yeah, you have that.
It's
animation?
not even on YouTube.
All right.
I try to find it, the first one.
Okay. All right.
So then I talked about the techniques. There's the stop motion technique, which is how 2D animation is technically done. You make frame by frame images, and then when you play them together very fast, you can see that they're moving together in one motion. And then there's the CGI, which is computer generated imagery animation. It's where you use the computer to create the image, and the image looks 3D. And when you move the hand, it looks like the entire body is moving also. So you don't have to draw out step by step. The computer does it for you. And then I talked about the movies. Before Toy Story, there were 3 animated movies that were very popular, because here I'm only talking about featured films, not short movies done by private organizations. So the first one was The Adventures of Mark and Twain, which came out in 1985. It was a clay animation, which, you know, they made clay models and then they took a picture, then made another clay model and took another picture. And then I talked about Toy Story and how it was a collaboration project between Disney and Pixar. Pixar created the animation and Disney produced it. You know, they put it out in the industry and showed everyone the movie. And after Toy Story, there was a huge boom, and within the next 5 years, about 15 movies came out, all CG. None of them were clay animation or 2D animation, and these movies are like really popular. Everyone's heard of them, and if they haven't heard of them, it's probably because they weren't able to see it in theater or at home. But these movies have made so much of money and so much of a boom in the industry that now animation movies is a part of everyday life. People don't think it's an amazing thing anymore. They're so used to it, they don't realize how great it is. So I think it's very cool how it's going, and I want to see what happens in the next 10 years. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.